Well boys, I know it's been like a year since I've uploaded anything, but I'm gonna be honest, I've been flat out over it, man. Handing in papers, writing essays, looking up most of the answers online, all the fun stuff that comes along with uni life. But to be honest with you, I've been doing all this without much of a purpose. With my YouTube stuff, I basically just ran out of things to talk about, and I didn't want to make videos just for the sake of having them up. If I don't care about a topic, I'm not going to expect my audience to give a shit either. But I've been holding on to this grad week stuff for almost 2 years, so why do it now? Well, when all this stuff first went down, I was already getting burned out from making videos, so spending a good bit of time on this would have probably drove me nuts. But to be honest with you, that week a lot of shit happened between a lot of different people. None of it was serious, obviously, it was high school back. But I think I've gotten to the point where I can just laugh at all the stupid shit I did when I was younger. Because as funny as a lot of this stuff is, I obviously wouldn't be at it nowadays. Maturing is realizing that a lot of the emotions you probably felt could have been put towards something more productive. Now if I had my time back, I wouldn't change a thing about my grad week. But at least now I can look at it through the perspective of someone who's grown as a person. Both mentally and definitely physically. Man boobs are a totally natural part of aging, I swear. I knows that most of you boys know what grad week is, but I've always got to assume that there's at least some dummy out there that doesn't have a sweet clue what I'm talking about. So let me explain it. Basically, at the end of your senior year of high school, the whole graduating class gets together and throws a week-long party to celebrate the end of 3 shitty years of education. Keep in mind that my grad year was at the tail end of COVID. Social gatherings were allowed at this point, but nobody was really doing them. This is where shit kinda gets confusing though. So our class made a Facebook group for any post relating to grad week, and one day, a notification pops up on my phone from someone in that group. Basically, it was decided by a circle of close friends that grad week was going to be changed from the usual format. Rather than having 50 or 60 people partying together, because of the harsh COVID rules that were just lifted, this would no longer be possible. Instead, 25 people would be throwing their own grad parties with a couple of their friends from the grade below for good measure. Everyone else was shit out of luck and nothing was going to be done about it. But don't worry, because everyone was going to be able to have a nice bonding moment together by watching the senior sunrise at Signal Hill. Senior sunrise was the biggest fucking waste of time I think I've ever been a part of. You gotta get up at 5:30 in the morning and drive all the way up to Signal Hill, and for what? I'll tell you for what. To freeze your fucking balls off waiting for the sun to come up, and to take some photos next to people you haven't talked to all year. It's as awesome as it sounds, I promise you. Sometime before this, I had one of my good friends make a group chat and add most of the other people from our grad class, so that we had our grad week ready to go. For the first time ever, there would be 2 grad weeks happening simultaneously in the same school. That's a stat so good it belongs on ESPN. Later on that night, it was agreed upon that both of the groups hosting grad weeks would meet at a place called Topsail Beach to throw a kickoff party. And boys, I know I said 40 seconds ago that senior sunrise was the worst, but this... man, oh man, their lucky gas was cheap back then. Otherwise I would have asked them to pay me for the ride home. The second me and my friends got there, you could tell that the prep crowd wanted absolutely nothing to do with us, and that's understandable. I mean, I'll admit to you, even back then, I had very few redeeming qualities. I gave up on sports, I sold cigarettes with my buddies behind the school, and all those years of Burger King and Kentucky Fried Chicken didn't exactly leave me with fucking Channing Tatum's physique either. So right away, everything was super awkward and nobody was having a good time. There was only one guy out of that whole group who bothered talking to us, and it was because we were all Leafs fans. At that time, the Leafs were notorious playoff chokers. Thank you to John Tavares for breaking that curse. It was all small talk bullshit, but at least it was something, right? The beach was only on the go for maybe an hour or two, and everyone went home wondering how their life choices led up to this absolute stinker of a night. With such a shitty kickoff though, things could only get better. Night 1 was definitely up there for being one of the best nights of the whole week, but holy fuck was it a pain in the ass setting up. Me and my buddies had to carry around one of those 40-pound ion speakers you get at Costco for 10 minutes into the woods, set up a tent around it, get lighting for the party, and get a generator to make all the shit work. But I gotta say, all the work we put in to get it on the go was totally worth it. It's hard to explain just what makes a field party work. There's so many different factors that come into play. The weather gotta be on your side, you gotta hope crackheads don't pop up and start stabbing everyone, and most importantly, you gotta actually learn how to properly pitch up a tent. I fucked up the last part, but we aren't gonna talk about that. Couches were burned, I got chokeslammed through a couple of dinner tables. Like, I must have been some fucked, because at first I didn't even feel any pain. But when I woke up the next morning, my back was absolutely shot. I wish I had some videos of the fire, but you can take my word for it when I tells you it was fucking deadly. Right towards the end of the party, events transpired and I decided that it would be in my best interest to boot it out of there as quick as I could. So in my infinite wisdom, I decided to start full on sprinting towards the direction of my house. People thought I was on the gear, but in reality I've always been just a very, very special boy, so I was just doing the first thing that came to my mind. Didn't matter if it made sense or not. Thankfully, some boys from a grade above me were going for a burn around the area and scooped me right up. We had a deadly conversation and they dropped me off back at my house, which gave me time to prepare for the next night, hangover be damned. Being the co-host of this grad week meant that I had to take one for the team and host a party of my own. But that's not even the best part. I wasn't even allowed to use my upstairs at all. Otherwise my arse was getting reddened. Don't want to fuck with mother. So I had to cram about 70 to 80 people in a tiny ass basement, set up a speaker again, rent a backlight for the fucking... is it backlight or blacklight? I don't know. I'm reading this fucking script. I might just be stupid, sorry. But I had to get a backlight for the Titan Bright theme, and I had to buy some cheap ass neon Bristol board from Dollarama. What could possibly go wrong? Surprisingly, nothing much really. I'm not gonna say it went perfectly. Like, you couldn't go out for a piss without knocking over like 4 or 5 people, it was that cramped, but like all in all, everyone had a pretty great time. Personally though, I think it was one of the weaker nights of the week. I'd love to sit up here and tell you that I threw the biggest rager, got all the hose and grew a 6-pack overnight, but in reality I sat on a couch and drank Rolling Rock wearing a crop top that offered everyone a full view of my gut. I thought I was a baller like Fred Van Vliet, but if you put Fred Flintstone in the room with me, he would have gotten more skin than me that night. Still though, up to that point I was having people over all the time. Not exactly like 80 people like Grad Week, but like still I used to have all my good buddies over, we'd have drinks, all that sort of stuff. So it felt pretty good to have a Grad Week party in the basement for old time's sake. We ended off night 2 with one last song before I turned the speaker off and told everyone in the party to fly the fuck. And that song was Wake Me Up When September Ends by Green Day. There aren't any times in my life where I can say that everything is going perfect, but at that moment, I'd say it came pretty damn close. Something just brought out the connection we all had together, going through the pandemic, not really having a real graduation or a prom or anything like that, but that one Green Day song really just put it all into perspective. A real bonding moment for a group of kids who were born at just the right time for a global pandemic to overshadow their entire high school lives. But hey, at least for that moment, everything was pretty cool, and with that, night 2 came to a close. I hope you enjoyed all that feel-good crap at the end of night 2, because this is where everything starts to get a little bit crazy. Remember earlier on how I said that a lot of the prep crowd were using COVID as a cover just to not invite the people they didn't like? Well, to be honest, I can kind of see where they were coming from. I mean, let's be honest, if you come from a working class background, or any background really that isn't like upper class, there's a decent chance that you didn't grow up acing calculus or getting all the top tutors in your area at your doorstep. So while you were getting into fights at school, these kids were getting the best education daddy's money could get them. What I'm basically trying to say is that we had a lot of balls to the wall, crazy motherfuckers going to our grad week, and they all decided to book a party bus for the boys' night. I have so much respect for every person that was a part of our grad week, so even if what I'm about to say might sound a little bit fucking nuts, it's all in good fun and it's not meant to harm anyone. And I wouldn't change any of this shit if I could. So we all pre-gamed at this one buddy's house, and by the time the bus pulled off, everyone was like already half cut, like we were there for a solid 2 hours. I felt some bad for the driver, man, like that was fucking nice, Jesus. On to the music scene though, since there were no women around to ruin the acts, the boys had most of the hardcore heavy shit blasting. We had X, Not the Drug, the rapper, we had Motley Crue, AC/DC, Meek Mill, all the classics really. All the while we were pounding back obscene amounts of liquor. I was up there doing a striptease on the pole and everything, but that's not even the weirdest part. Stay with me now. I was doing it as a joke, but all of a sudden I feels my nipple getting flicked around back and forth like a fucking light switch, and I'm just like, what the fuck is on the go? To this day, I still have no clue who was doing it, but he had to be having the time of his life up there. To top it all off, just as the bus is finishing up its route and dropping us all off at the house, the boys just start shouting, and next thing you know is all I see is like the boys are holding these 2 fellas back, and one of them got this big bloody gash around his face like near his eye. Apparently one of the boys got punched and a knife was pulled, and when something like that happens, yeah, people tend to get a little bit out of control. Only a little bit though. I have absolutely no idea how much Buddy had to pay in damages to the bus driver after, but I'm just glad I didn't have to fork over any loot. I'm a cheap prick. Still though, I'm not even gonna say it was a bad night. Fighting, weapons and booze, how much more manly can you get, really? The girls' night was probably way better, but being the toxic male that I am, I'm still gonna pretend that the boys stole the show on this night. Nothing calms the nerves of a crazy night like that like some good old fashioned property theft, am I right? Jokes aside, night 4 was yet another banger. The only negative I can really think of is that we had to drive all the way up to Bay Bulls, but honestly the house was that deadly and the night was just so gnarly that I'm not even gonna bitch about such a non-issue. Some tenors and a few no-names from the grade below us decided to pull up and steal my buddy's case of beer though. I shouldn't have to explain to you guys why going to a grad party you aren't even a part of just to stir up shit is wrong, but the whole concept of it is still pretty dumb. Like, you probably could have just went to the store and got a case for yourself for the amount of money you spent on gas to rob someone else's, but hey, they're tenors, not regular people, so you gotta lower your expectations just a tiny bit. All the bullshit aside, there were a lot of great moments from this night, mainly the awards. I'm not gonna lie, I was a little bit nervous heading in. I was after putting on quite a few COVID vanity pounds, so I wouldn't have been shocked if the boys just decided to vote me for the rack of the year just for shits. But thankfully, the stars aligned that night, and I won the biggest alcoholic award just as expected. I also gotta give a special shout out to my good buddy, who littered the house with his fucking premier protein shakes on this night. I'm not even joking, if you've seen Ivan Drago from Rocky 4, you've seen the spitting image of this fella. He can't even clean up his shit by, I don't think he was drunk, sure. All you seen was like 8 or 9 protein shakes on the fucking line when you left. Must have been some good mixer, who knows. This is also where I got the nickname Rob Van Dam, after the wrestler guy. So out of the blue, I just randomly decided to do a frog splash off this guy's staircase. I was spitting up blood afterwards, but it got a good laugh out of everyone. And at the end of the day, that's all I was really looking for. I call it being a class clown, but some of those who don't get the humour in it would prefer to call me a fucking retard in quotations. I'm cool with either title, to be honest with you. I totally wear it as a badge of honour. I think I had to pay like $50 for a taxi home, but hey, at least I wasn't dumb enough to sprint home this time. I tried to sleep on a staircase with my buddy too, but my back was honestly that shot at this point that I didn't think it was possible to fuck it up even more. When I got home, I looked at the stars, threw up a little bit, brushed my teeth because I didn't want to sleep like a dirtbag, and went right to bed. Night 5, here we come. This was the night that I was looking forward to the most, mainly because one of my best buddies was kind enough to host. Around this time though, some people in the other group were starting to get a little bit upset at me, and I was getting messages from them letting me know about it. It all really stemmed back to a chant we started up, fuck the preps to be exact. I'm not gonna act like I was a complete saint in all this, because to be honest with you, the boys gave me a microphone the night before, and I just started ripping into all of them, making fun of them for not getting pussy, being stuck up, pretty much everything I felt at the time, I guess. It wasn't mature at all, and I definitely didn't do anyone any favours. I did way more harm than good, but in my defence, I was just publicly stating what everybody else was saying privately. I'm not going to say that everyone in our grad group had the same opinion as me, but a lot of us felt that the people having these other parties were superficial, judgmental, not very interesting, and were interested in throwing a grad week that celebrated the accomplishments of their group and only their group. Don't get things confused, they had every right to do that. I'm not the graduation police. If you want to celebrate with your own group and keep it private, you shouldn't be judged for that. But when you act like you did what was best to include everyone else, while talking shit about the people you were supposedly cool with, it's obviously not going to stay hidden for very long, especially in an environment like grad week, where everyone's drunk and the lips are loose. I'm not saying that our side was right or that our side was wrong. I'm saying that both sides were wrong, and at the end of the day, people probably could have handled things better, myself included. To sum it up, we had to stop the chant. Oh well. It didn't take anything away from that night at all. Big, dirty pong tournament, elbows were all over the line, unsportsmanlike conduct all around, but we should have had a referee. Wasn't even fit. But hey, at least the right team won. They bopped it to the top and everything. You gotta love the inside jokes that like 10 people will get. That'll draw in the big YouTube audience, won't it? Even though night 5 was deadly, aside from the pong tournament and me doing another 5-star frog splash onto someone's patio, there isn't really a whole lot to talk about. But to be fair, when you're talking about grad week, a lot of it is just something that if you've experienced it, you know exactly what I'm talking about when I says it was good. I don't really gotta go into a crazy amount of detail, a lot of it is just something you either understand or you don't. That sounded confusing as fuck, but oh well. On to the shortest and the worst night of the whole week. Who's excited? Like I said before, a deadly field party depends on a lot of things, and unfortunately for us, night 6 decided to give us piss and rainfall the whole day, so everyone pretty much just fucked off home when we got there. Except for me and a few of my buddies, we decided to make the most of it. And instead of heading home and calling it a night, we stayed in the minivan, getting pissed drunk and watching Alvin and the Chipmunks on DVD. I wish I was kidding, but it actually wasn't as bad as it sounds. But since you can't really talk about a party if there isn't, well, a party, it makes night 6 pretty much a throwaway. On to night 7. Night 7 was Ram Ranch night, an idea me and my buddy threw in as a joke, which ended up actually being the theme. This was another short night. We had the cowboy outfits and shit, but 7 days of non-stop drinking really does take its toll on you. So everyone was a lot more laid back than what we'd been the week when it first got on the go. I tried to frog splash off of a porta potty though, but the boys held me down. Party poopers, but I can't even break my own arm without someone stepping in. What's wrong with the world? We had Ram Ranch blasting on the speakers too, so while all of the buddies' neighbours were there trying to sleep, all you could hear about was cowboys sucking cocks, oinking in the showers. I forget the lyrics, but it goes something like that, I'm sure. Overall, a pretty midnight, but still a decent bit of fun. A mellow end to a fucking nuts grab week. To end her off, our grab week was definitely a story I had to tell eventually. I know it's been like 2 years, but I still remembers all of this stuff like it was yesterday. I guess a lot of it just traces back to just getting out of the pandemic. It felt so great to just be with the people in the same situation as you. In the past 2 years though, I've definitely changed a little bit. Back then, I was a hot-headed little bastard who didn't give a shit about what anyone else thought of him. But the more I aged, the more I realized that fighting with every person who disagrees with every aspect of you isn't really a smart way of living your life. But hey, everyone's a little bit fucked in high school, aren't they? And I still spent that senior year with some of the coolest people I know, and I'm glad we all got to experience some form of a grab week. And even though I've matured since, I wouldn't change that part of my life for the world. At the end of the day, you'll experience a lot in your life, but the thing that stays with you forever are the memories that you create. So no matter where you are and what you're doing, and no matter how bad your situation is right now, don't let life pass you by. Do what makes you happy and create your own memories that'll last a lifetime. And if you gotta get a couple hangovers in the process to achieve that, then do it with some pride. This has been Leaf Carlo, and I'll see you on the right side of the rock. Have a good one.